Marcia Sear. I'm the head of outreach programs and education for Kenosha Public Library. And I am really excited to be the host of this panel because I have a special love and I love promoting graphic novels and mangas, especially for reluctant readers, and so, but also for the kids there who just like to use art as an expressive form. So anyways, I'm thrilled to be the host of this panel, and I have special guests, Mary Wynn Hyder and Donovan Shear.
Hello.
And I just wanted to start with a little prepared statement, which is there are many reasons to read graphic novels and illustrated children's books. People might not, sometimes in the library and in the bookmobile, we hear parents basically telling their children to put graphic novels back, graphic novels and mangas, which always breaks my heart because I think if you want reading to be joyful, that you should be able to pick what you want to read. That's number one. But number two, I want to keep battling that stigma that for some reason that graphic novels, they might not have as many words as a word count, but it's still reading. So I have some facts, because librarians like to fight with facts. Graphic novels and illustrated novels can help reluctant readers develop a positive relationship with reading. Graphic novels can help struggling readers learn to understand sequence, sounding out words, develop vocabulary, and read subtext. Readers rely on both images and text to understand the meaning of a story, much like life. There's verbal and there's nonverbal. Illustrations can help kids with reading disabilities understand the meaning of text. Graphic novels can help make complex subject matters more accessible to readers. Reading graphic novels can help and strengthen memory. Graphic novels help readers develop strong visual literacy skills, which can be very important to understand things like infographics and visual data, which is things that they'll use like on the news or newspaper, things like that. Illustrations can provide diverse representation, which is also a form of support and validation to readers in those populations. And illustrations can stimulate artistic expression for our future artists. So those are the reasons why I love promoting graphic novels and having them on the shelves in the bookmobile and in the library. But we're here to talk with our two experts. So I have some questions to talk about, but first I would love for you to just introduce yourselves and maybe say a couple sentences about yourself that you would want your readers to know.
Go right ahead. So, I'm Donovan Shear. I write and illustrate upper elementary, middle school level chapter books that are illustrated like 2 or 3 pictures per chapter. And then coloring books has been the big thing I've been doing for the last few years. And now I'm doing more with the narrative coloring books. Basically picture books, but they're coloring books and they tell a story throughout it. And that's been fun because I'm actually writing out the whole story, but I'm not doing any of the words or anything in the book. So it's exclusively through pictures, which means I have to use the artwork to tell that story. And I figure like if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then my 40-page coloring book is like, that's really like a real significant thing I'm making there. That's like a novel. So just way less work and I don't have to hire an editor. So that's cool. It saves a lot of money when you're running the publishing company. Yeah. And I run Studio Moonfall. It's a bookstore in Kenosha with all local and independent authors. So come check them out. And artists too. So we've got comic creators and author illustrators and everything like that. So, yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I'm Mary Wynn, and I am the author of this series, the Stupendous Switcheroo series, that is a combination, it's a hybrid. So it has some text, and then it also has a lot of comic panels in it. And it's about a boy who wakes up every day with a different superpower, and he's like, what is happening? So some of the superpowers are awesome, like super strength or flying, and then some of them are maybe not so great, like
I make toast.
yes, exactly. At one point, bubbles come out of his hands. He's like, how am I supposed to be a hero when bubbles come out of my hands? Spoiler alert, the first power he has in book 2, super sweat. So, some of these powers are, easily heroic, and some of them are not as easily heroic. And I wrote this with my friend Chad Sell. So I did the words and he did the art. And you may know him from graphic novels such as The Cardboard Kingdom. Is that ringing bells? About a group of kids who use cardboard to make all of these incredible costumes. It's a really cool story about a gang of kids. And so Chad and I came up with a story, and then I wrote the words and he did the pictures, and it was really fun to write a story with a friend. Although I will say, so I have another graphic novel coming out next year, but before that, all of my books were exclusively words. So this was a new adventure for me.
Okay. First question.
Mm-hmm.
Who or what has been a major influence on your writing or illustrating style? And or both?
Well, one of my favorite books when I was a kid was this Maury Sendak book. So he is the guy who wrote Where the Wild Things Are. He wrote In the Night Kitchen. But the one that I loved the most was a book called Outside Over There. Do you know that one? It is real weird.
Yeah.
So it's a picture book. It's like the same, it's like written for the same kids that he wrote Where the Wild Things Are. But it's about, there's like a big sister and a baby sister, and these like gremlins come and steal the baby sister and replace the baby sister with an ice sculpture of a baby sister, and then the big sister has to take the ice sculpture to the gremlins and like steal the baby back, and it is very weird. And as a big sister, I was like really into it, and I was really into the drawings, which were so dramatic, and so that was one of the earliest, biggest influences on me in terms of art and words together. And then when I was about your age, and how old are you?
7.
Okay, when I was about your age, and I was just going to elementary school, there was this whole section in my elementary school library that was, so I am so old. We did not have a lot of graphic novels when we were kids, but there was this one section in our school library that was called Illustrated Classics.
Oh,
and it was graphic novels of the books that you read when you're in like high school. So these were like books that were not really for kids of our age at that point in time, but they were illustrated. And so some adult somewhere had been like, these are illustrated, so these are definitely for kids. And so one of the books I remember the most was called The Turn of the Screw. And I read the comic book of The Turn of the Screw when it was one of the first things that I learned to read by myself. And here it's the short version of Turn of the Screw. It is very spooky, very, very spooky. And it gave me nightmares, but very cool nightmares. And so I loved reading this graphic novel of this grown-up story. And I read it, I don't know, a bazillion times maybe. So it turns out that even though I don't write spooky stuff really, like arts and pictures and words of spooky stuff was a big deal for me when I was about your age. Yeah.
Yeah. So for my stuff, when I was between 8 and 10 years old, I'd always been making stories with things since I was super little. But then when I was between 8 and 10 years old, my dad was in the Navy, so we lived in Japan on a military base. So we didn't have a lot of influence from just anything like on TV and stuff. We had one channel, I think, but I lived off base for a while when Dragon Ball was first coming on. So we'd have like the trading cards were in the vending machines and the corner markets and stuff like that. So I would just collect the cards, and then I would watch the show in Japanese, and I didn't know Japanese. The artwork just looked cool. So it was that, and then I think it was around the time that Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out too. So all the like Disney style cartoons were big. And one of the things we did have there for American art and culture was the Disney Adventure magazines, and so it was all like familiar characters from Disney and everything, but then they had comic strips in it like DuckTales, and I think Bone was originally published in there, which was cool because it was a comic, but it was like a whole epic adventure, and it would come out I think monthly, and then you just get a little bit of the story, and then you just get hooked on it, and then with all those art influences and the stories being in just little bite-sized forms, that helped shape a lot of what I do. And then eventually, when we moved back to America, that was when Dragon Ball started first coming here. And I was like, I know these people, they're my old friends, and now they speak English, so I know what they're talking about. And then I just got double whammied with it, so that mixed with like Bugs Bunny artwork, that just really shaped my style. And then for stories, I've always just loved choose your own adventure sort of books, and like My Teacher is an Alien, or My Teacher Fried My Brains.
Yeah.
So those were big. So those were good for like the weird influence. Them and like, was it Outer Limits? That was the TV show back in the day. That was like Twilight Zone, but more modernized. And then the Choose Your Own Adventures made me just want to make it more versatile with what you could do in a story, so I never really limited to what type of books or art form I do. I'm making like zombie stress balls right now, so there's no limit. You just have an idea, you can shape it into whatever you want it to be. So do everything, or just do it all. Yeah, just do it all. Come up with an idea and run with it. Nobody can stop you.
Do any of your book characters or books themselves come directly from your own childhood?
I can go,
Okay.
if you want to think.
Yeah, I'll think.
Okay. So, not really, or at least not this series. When I was a kid, I grew up in Indonesia a little bit.
Okay.
So interesting similarity here that we both spent time as a kid in a culture where we didn't understand the language. So
yeah.
that is
It helps,
fascinating. Yeah.
You gotta interpret things different.
Yeah, you have to look at the images and yeah. But I did a lot of theater when I was in elementary school and middle school and high school. And I have a graphic novel that comes out next year that is about theater. That takes place in a play. It's about a girl who wants to be in the play. She doesn't get cast in the role she wants, and she feels so bad about herself that she turns into a bug.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. And that actually was sort of based on when I was in 4th grade. I really wanted to be in a play really bad, and I got cast. So in this, have you heard of the book Charlotte's Web?
Yeah, with the pig and the spider.
The pig and the spider. Yeah. So in the story, the girl really wants to play the spider. She really wants to be Charlotte, and she gets cast as the web. And when I was in 4th grade, I really wanted to be in the play, and I got cast as the hand that reaches through the curtain to give one of the characters a book. And so that story is very much from my childhood.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I think the web
Dug
is
really
a step
deep in
up.
that.
I know. She at least gets to hold signs that say humble.
So I don't think any characters are really built around me specifically, but I did scouts as a kid, so we've got like the Monsters Around the Campfire book, and even in the Fear and Sunshine books, I have a lot of little camping adventures and things, and I draw monsters and ghosts, and those were all the things that I expected to fall out of the trees and grab me in the middle of the night when I was camping. Yeah.
Did you
Still
like
can
spooky
happen.
stuff when you were a kid?
Yeah, and I liked a lot of it. I don't think I really got into like Goosebumps or anything. I loved the artwork and all that from the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books, because that was just so far out there. But I think it was always like actually like going out and experiencing the stuff and like going digging up bugs and like seeing what they taste like, or just adventures.
You were
like,
eating bugs, Donovan?
well, you gotta try it once.
To know that you don't like it?
Yeah, you gotta know. If it bites you back, then it's probably dangerous. But you gotta have those experiences to draw from when you're making up stories, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, it was mostly just like being out in the woods, digging holes with friends, and having our latchkey adventures that we used to do when our parents were at work, and then like that helps influence the stories because all the kids in my stories are miscreants. They have a good time.
I'm
though.
proud of it.
Yeah, they're great.
So, going back to the idea of graphic novels or illustrated chapter books, how do you choose which parts of the stories that might be told without words or are pictures just as effective as words?
I think for my chapter books that have pictures, it's kind of to capture the like anchoring scenes for the story. So that way it's like if people peek ahead or something, it might be something to be like, oh, what's going to happen here? I better keep reading so I can get up to that point. Or it'll give a wider picture of the like scenery or something, or really capture that emotion of a character that's gross and creepy, and so I just want to draw a gross and creepy character. So yeah, I think for my chapter books, I've always written the story prior to doing the artwork, but I will usually have a pile of like sketches around with characters or maybe mini scenes that will influence things, and I'll go through and redraw them at that point.
So when I was working on this, I was also working on a musical adaptation of my first novel. And it was super fun. But I wasn't writing the music. Somebody else was writing the music. And when I talked to him about how we were gonna do this, he was like, what you need to do is make every song needs to be an emotional high point. And I realized that it was the same with the illustrations.
Yeah.
So the illustrations are the emotional high points. So for example, in this scene, there's a couple little spoilers coming up. Hope you don't mind. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In this scene, Switcheroo, the stupendous Switcheroo, is trying to decide if he's gonna have a secret meeting with someone who might be able to give him some information about where his mother is, because his mom has gone missing. And so he's been waiting for this email, and he's waiting for the email, and when he finally gets it, he's like, so there's all this text right here, and then he finally gets it, he's like, am I really gonna do this? Heck yeah! So this is like the big moment. And so then he goes to this place, and he's looking for his mom, and there's like, you know, all this text about he's about to teleport there, and he teleports there, and what does he find? He just finds a big crash. He doesn't find his mom at all. He finds the remains of a hover car crash. And so the reason we had that be a picture is because we knew that it would be stronger. It would make you feel that moment of he gets there, he thinks he's gonna see her, and she's not there, and it's even worse, there's just this wreck. And so we knew that that image, it's the whole a picture is worth 1,000 words thing. We knew that that was gonna like really like, bam, hit you right in the, well, in the gut, but I'm not gonna punch you in the stomach. That seems like that's not fair. So that was how we sort of did it, was we picked those moments where the big feelings were gonna happen to be, and sometimes the big feeling is like a scary thing, it's like the car crash, and sometimes the big feeling is a joke. It's like a funny thing that it's like the big feeling is a laugh. And so it winds up being that.
So when you're starting a book project, what do you do first? Do you do character design, decide on the flow of the plots? Do you explore the setting? What's your strategy?
So for Switcheroo, Chad and I Chad had the idea for the story. He asked me if I wanted to write it, and he was going to draw it. And then we hung out together, and because we knew that he was going to have a new power, this kid was going to have a new power every day, we were like, we have to brainstorm so many powers.
So many powers.
So the first thing we did was we hung out and we just listed powers. And I mean, some of them were great, like, you know, can manipulate the clouds. And some of them were like frog powers. We didn't know what that meant. We just thought that was a possible, you know, you can imagine exactly what that meant. So the first thing we did was we came up with that, and then Chad started drawing. So first we came up with that list, and we had some ideas for the story, and then Chad started drawing the main characters that we knew about. And then we just went back and forth, and it was kind of like having a relay race, where I would do some writing, and then Chad would, I'm making you Chad in this scenario. I would do some writing, and then I would hand it off to Chad, and Chad would do some drawing, and Chad would twist his mustache. Chad would be villain.
I just assumed. Yes.
That's right. And then he would give it back to me, and I would do some more writing, and he would do some more drawing, and so it was really like a relay race. It was very, very fun to be able to do that with somebody else. So the answer for me is we went back and forth. We didn't do like all the words and then all the pictures. It was like figuring it out together.
Okay.
And mine mostly come from mindless doodles. It's just drawing. And it's not so much nowadays because I don't really get to do too much mindless doodling. Can when I try to squeeze in free time, but that's rare. But like Sunshine, the main character from the Fear and Sunshine books, she came just from a few doodles and doing little character design stuff. And over time, as the I think the pictures ended up getting other influences. The character was originally older, so then she became like a 7-year-old, and then the story kind of helped shape. I think she really had the personality just off the artwork, and then I just had to figure out why a happy little hippie girl was hanging out with monsters, and that's when I started writing the story. And then other characters were born directly out of the story itself. Like some of the characters I had zero plan for, but it just made sense to throw in a character at this point who was a zombie kid, and then I had to drop a zombie kid who was fitting for the world that I had developed and everything. And yeah, I think it's a good mix for it. Most of them though come from weird little silly doodles or just a funny idea. If I'll see something that makes me think of something, I'll start with a sketch that's more informed than a mindless doodle, but then the story still grows after that.
Thank you. How do you consider the age of your audience when you're creating your work or stories? Or when do you decide to leave things to the imagination?
I've had in the Fear and Sunshine Dark Matters, I had a scene that was it was described as being like so disturbing and gross and violent that Sunshine, the main character, couldn't conceive of what she was looking at. So she just kind of walked it off and just went away. So she didn't even understand what it was that was going on. So because I figured it would be just too crazy for a kid to understand what was happening there. So I just really didn't describe the details of what was happening, just that she just saw something that's going to give her issues that she's going to have to work out with a therapist in years to come.
Yeah, I want to know what it was.
Yeah, no, I don't even know. Really.
I don't want to know.
I had an idea at one point, but it just kind of fell through the cracks. It's there waiting in the shadows. We'll find it eventually. I
Terrifying. You're just
suppose.
making it scarier and scarier.
But I'm not describing it. So yeah, I'm just gonna give long-term trauma. Yeah, and then for some of the characters, some of them get pretty gross and warty and like slimy and everything, but nothing too like some of this. I mean, they're monster stories, so they can get violent, I suppose, but none of it's really described in a way that wouldn't be at the most PG-13. So yeah, it's keep it fun. And now I think I'm leaning more into like even more family-friendly stuff until I pivot 180 degrees, and then it's going to be like no one's allowed to read this. It's just got to get locked up.
Yeah, I tried writing for high school once, and I realized very quickly that I couldn't do it. And I've been very happy writing for like 7 to 12-year-olds. So that is just my sweet spot. That's just where I hang out.
That's cool. How long does it take to write a book or write and illustrate a book?
Oh. Well,
Varies wildly. It depends if it's a Color of Kenosha book. It apparently takes 10 months to do. But some of my other books, the chapter books, I think I was doing those in like 4 months at a time, with the illustrations and everything. And the coloring books, I try to do those in a month, and which is between 30 and 50 illustrations. But those go pretty quick, but I've gotten the process down so fast, just working digitally now and doing all the artwork on an iPad means I don't have to scan it and clean up and everything like that. But I think drawing by pencil, I end up getting a better concept initially a lot of times. So I've been with my new Zombies of Horror book, that one I'm doing it all by hand so that I can, I think I stay a little more creative with drawing in pencil, but a lot of that creativity is already like locked in place. So for a lot of the books, I can go straight digital and still have a top-notch product that I'm super happy with. But yeah, so like a month if I'm focused on it, 10 months if I'm distracted and trying to keep my business afloat.
Okay.
Yeah. Agreed. Different times for different books. This one took about a year because we had to come up with all the stuff. We had to figure out we had to do all the brainstorming. And then this one took about 6 months. And then book 3 took about 3 months.
Nice.
So the more we knew, the faster it was to do. But that's just the writing. The illustrations took longer. And Chad, something that happened to Chad, do you draw very much? Something that happened to Chad was that his hands started to get sort of crampy. Because he would draw so much. His hand would get crampy. And so something he did that was really helpful for him was he got these little things that go on your pencil that are like triangle shaped and a little jelly, and they really helped him be able to draw more, like longer without hurting himself. And so, we didn't want him to draw so fast that he hurt himself in a long-term way. We wanted him to take care of himself. So.
That's a really good point. Donovan, do you have to do anything special to keep yourself from
I
having
blew out my
injury?
shoulder in
Okay.
January,
Oh.
so that was part of the problem with the Kenosha coloring book this year. That set me back a few months with that. But now I'm sponsored by ibuprofen, so everything's fine. Yeah, it's great. It's like I don't even need to like stretch or anything. I just eat up those and I'm good to go. I should probably stretch though, or something.
My son
We're not
is
to
a
a surgery
gamer.
level.
Oh,
My son is a gamer, and when he was in high school, they got their very first esports team, and their coach taught them different stretches and exercises that they were supposed to do every single day to keep them from getting gamer injuries.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that some of those might, maybe not exactly the same, but I would think that some of them would be similar.
I bet you're right.
I had one instance where it was another color of Kenosha one, because I was in a crunch to get it to the businesses that were all part of it. I was drawing for so long at a time, I blew out blood vessels in my eyes.
Oh
so,
my gosh.
Yeah, that was, it went away pretty quickly, so yeah.
It's dramatic,
but yeah,
though.
it was all just completely red, and yeah, just because I was drawing at a screen for, I think I was doing like 12-hour days just drawing, which is too much. It's just too much. You got, 4 hours is fine. Nothing's that important. Like 4 hours is like
So-
4 hours with like 3 breaks in there.
I think the moral of the story is
Take care of your
that
health.
probably authors, but especially the illustrators, maybe need a little extra self-care.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Some,
Yeah, you can go in the zone real hard doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or with writing too. I've done I think it was the Fear and Sunshine Dark Matters when I was finishing up that book. I did. I think I was in the chair for between 10 and 12 hours, but I wrote like 9,000 words that day, so that was cool.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The
All
end
right,
just
well,
kept
I think we have time for one last question. So, my question is this: if there is one misconception about being a children's book author or illustrator, what would you say that is? Like, I would have never thought about injury,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
it can be a tedious amount of work. It takes a lot of effort to put together a book like that, and I think it's easy to underestimate how much goes into it. I mean, with even my coloring books, if it's 40 illustrations and it takes like, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours per book, and then there's everything on top of it, like getting it out to reach readers and all that. It's there's a lot of little things that all add up a lot, and yeah, but I'll just keep trying to make a book a month anyway. It's fine. I'll just break my body in the process.
No, God.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to say 2 completely opposite things.
Okay.
And one is that it's harder to make a book than some people think. Some people are like, oh, I just need to, if I just have the time to sit down, I would write a book. And so it's harder than those people think. It takes a lot of work to write a book. So that's one thing. And then the opposite thing that I'm going to say is anybody can do it. Anybody can write a book. All you have to do is believe in yourself. And you gotta take the time, you gotta love your story, and you gotta keep working on it. Once you've done it, then you want to go back over it and make it even better. When I was a kid, I was so afraid of failing. I was so afraid of my first draft being bad that I stopped writing for fun. I just quit. And it wasn't until I was a lot older that I realized that that first draft is supposed to be kind of a mess, because that's where I figure out everything. So those are my 2 things. It takes hard work, but it's good work, and you can do it.
Yeah, and do it a little bit every day. Just build those muscles in your brain.
I would like to open it up to you. Do you have any questions, either of you? Or Jason?
Pressure.
Pressure.
They don't have to be like fancy questions.
Do you have any questions?
It can be like, what's your middle name, Donovan?
What's your middle name?
Harold,
Hey,
named after my grandpa.
what a great middle
Yeah.
name.
And my first
It's like
name's
one of the
after
Captain
my other
Underpantses.
Oh, very good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
No, it's
I'm
one of the
naming
kids.
it.
One of the kids.
Oh.
Not the principal.
Okay.
It's one of the kids. His name is Harold. Okay. Have you read Captain Underpants?
Yeah, have you gone down that road really? A little, maybe.
One of them is Harold.
Yeah,
Harold
no, you're
White
right, that sounds-
Castle.
Yeah.
what
Sorry.
I meant to name.
My grandpa's name was Harold too.
Yeah?
Yeah, so was mine.
We've got
My
Harold's everywhere.
dad's middle name is Harold after his dad.
Look at this confluence.
The
It was
most
crazy.
popular name ever. That's wild.
Well, that's probably why they choose it for so many book characters, because I think there are a lot
We're
of
all just naming
Yeah.
characters after our grandpas.
So a question that I have, because he is such a drawer. Like he's always been into drawing and being artistic since he was teeny, and it's sort of grown and developed. And now he's like more in like, well, he's branching out and trying to figure out different ways to achieve different things. And so when you talk about iPad, what program do you use to draw digitally?
I use Procreate on
Okay.
iPad, but I generally recommend just buy a ream of 500 sheets of printer paper.
Yeah.
And I think that's a better value than an iPad. Unless
Well,
you're doing actual like production to create a product.
Sure.
I don't think there's really any reason to get technology involved and get
Yeah.
yourself locked into something so expensive. Like just give me, when I was your age, 500 sheets of printer paper is the best present I could get. Because I still have in my breakfast doodle books, in the back section of that book, those are all art. It's artwork from when I was a kid. Because I have had boxes like this big of just illustrations that I had done and collected over the years, which if I had that all digitally, it would just kind of disappear into the ether and I'd forget it's there.
Sure.
But since I had to lug around this box of art from country to country, then I knew the burden that I was carrying with me. And I was
Right.
like, well, I better see if I can make some money off this now.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, our house is sort of covered
Yeah.
with pieces of paper.
Yeah.
You know, some of which he brought today, which is fantastic. But no, and he's played around with, because he has an iPad.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was. I mean, it's a super basic, and I ordered like a cheapo Amazon like pencil.
Yeah.
And so you've been playing with that a little bit. I was just curious if there was like a better.
Yeah, Procreate is super cool. You can even do like little bits of animation and things in it. Oh, and they've got different sort of like brushes or pen tips that you can use in it.
Sure.
It's for art production, for digital art production, it's exclusively what I use until I get into like doing like the more high-end coloring for book covers and stuff. Then I'll throw it into the computer and use Photoshop. But for all the art like the drawing, that's all in Procreate, and we'll see. Maybe I'll start doing more animation too.
Right.
Bring that back. Start a cartoon line on the side.
Yeah.
Weekly cartoon
Heck yeah.
episode on top of the
A
monthly
serial.
book, and
Right.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
8
look
hours
for
of
it.
cartoons I'm going to produce per week.
Well, I want to invite you, Donovan and I are going to kind of move on into the activity room, and we are going to have an activity where you can start the character development and creating the beginning of a graphic novel.
You want to go
So-
draw a little bit? Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no,
And
thank you guys for being here.